No. However, yes. Hi everyone, my name is Kayla and welcome back to Kay's Hidden Shelf, where we talk about books. Today I have the indie reader tag for you, originally created by Cassidy over at Covers with Cassidy, and I was tagged by Dom at Diminish Books. I'll leave a link to both of their videos doing this tag as well as their channels in the description below if you're interested in checking them out. As the title suggests, this tag centers around indie books, specifically indie fantasy. Now I'm going to try and do my best to answer these as best as possible and stick to one book max per question, potentially, because it is just so hard to narrow down books that you love and want other people to hear about or just check out. So we're gonna do our best. So without further ado, let's just go ahead and dive into these questions. Question number 1, what got me into reading indie fantasy? So this goes back to 2019 when I first started hearing about indie books, specifically indie fantasy, and I delved into my first read, which was The Sword of Kaigan by M.L. Wong. Now, this was introduced to me from a multitude of different booktubers, including Elliot Brooks, Jessie May, Diminish Books, Andrew's Wizardly Reads, Leslie at the Nerdy Narrative, and just being able to chat with other readers in their Discord groups and just online. It introduced me to an entire world of books that I didn't realize were there. Since then, indie books have just dominated my reading, and I have had so many fantastic reads. Question number 2, what is my favorite thing about indie fantasy? Personally, I love the diversity that you can find. Authors can do what they want. They can be creative as they want. They can take tropes and spin them on their heads. There's no limitations. They can print these books and publish them the way they want to. And no, not every book will work for everyone, but I love the unexpected developments that these authors take, because at a certain point, I've found with reading that when you see a trope, you kind of know what's coming. And with indie books, I've been surprised time and time again as these authors just flip them on their heads or twist them in such intriguing ways. So I absolutely love the diversity, even with worlds. There's so much creativity from these authors, and being able to see them explore it unhindered is just incredible. The other aspect is genre blending, and I think a great example of this is A Gamble of Gods by Mitriel Feywood, because this blends sci-fi and fantasy together in such a way that felt so natural and engaging, and the way the story comes together with those two genres being blended was an absolutely fantastic read. Question number 3, what is my favorite indie fantasy book or series? It's still the Threadlight series by Zach Argyle. I love this trilogy, and I hope to come back to it someday, as I still have a bit of book hangover from the ending of the trilogy, just the world, the characters. I came to love them, and the way that Zach handles postpartum depression, parenthood in fantasy, that again, similar to the last question, just changes that trope and handles it in a very different way. I absolutely adore what he did with this story and the world, the characters. So yes, this is still my favorite series to date. Question number 4, what is one high priority indie fantasy on my TBR? There's so many. I don't know that I can narrow it down to one. So I'm going to break the rules here a little bit and say my top 3. And the first one is Hills of Heather and Bone by K.E. Andrews. There's plant magic, there's necromancy, there's a spiteful chicken, and everything about it, including the cover, definitely caught my eye, and it sounds like it will be something that I'm anticipating to be a 5-star read, so definitely I want to prioritize this one. Next is The Blue Flames by Jacqueline Hagan. This is book 3 in the Riverfall Chronicles, and if you've been watching the channel and seeing some of my shorts, you probably saw my reactions to book 1 and 2, The Wickwire Watch and the Spider Key, which, yeah, left with a cliffhanger. So this is definitely going to be a priority because I need to know what happens. Finally is Renia by Carl Forshaw. This has come highly recommended to me by Esme, and if you're not following Esme's reviews, she's not a booktuber, but she is a reviewer for the Before We Go blog. She is fantastic. I've gotten so many great reads from her. And this is one of the ones that she keeps reminding me is going to be fantastic and a new favorite. So I'm really excited to get to this one as well. Question number 5, where do I find out about indie fantasy books? There's a lot of places that I hear about indie fantasy books or get recommendations from, including booktubers, review websites, and blogs. There are just a plethora of places you can hear about these, even competitions such as Spiffbo, where you have a bunch of authors that are submitting their books into a competition and being reviewed and ending up as semifinalists or finalists. So there are a lot of places you can hear about these books. But honestly, the best place is just in the community. As much as I do rely on those places and get recommendations from those spots, I also get recommendations from other readers who are just reading indie books, and being able to make friends with those people and being in the community and being part of that has just changed how I read in a very positive way. So I'll leave links in the description below where you can find some of these blogs and booktubers and the competitions that I'm mentioning. If you are looking to expand some of your indie reading, I'd also recommend checking out some Discord groups. If you are new to Discord, they are so friendly and welcoming. I highly recommend them as well. So definitely check those in the links in the description. And before I forget, hashtags. There are a lot of hashtags relating to indie books that both readers and authors use, so absolutely searching those hashtags will help you find some new indie reads as well. Question number 6, what is a book I'd recommend to someone just starting to read indie fantasy? This is hard because everyone is so different in their reading tastes, and indie books are just incredibly diverse. So I'm going to narrow it down to 2 for a couple of reasons based on length and style of storytelling and the world building. So the first one is a chunker, and that is Nomads of the Sea by Kobe Zucker. This is a fantastic chunk. It is incredibly polished. The world, the story is so good. It features a military culture and a seafaring culture that come together to snuff out a rebellion. Its setting is really unique in the Nisi archipelago, but we also get some familiar fantasy elements with the military culture as well as some magic, and the world, the story pacing, all of it is well done. It's an incredibly polished story, and I think fantasy readers who love chunky, slow burn reads that just have so much, even action. The settings for the battles take place on ships and water. It's just incredible to read, and I'd highly recommend this one for anyone who loves those chunky reads. Something a little shorter would be The Octus Trials by D.T. Kane. This is a series that was an unexpected hit for me. This is book 1 in the Spoken Books Uprising series. I'm currently at book 3. I need to start that soon. But the world was much more in-depth, and the magic system was far more involved and unique and refreshing than I had originally anticipated. The story centers around Baz, who is a young man, but he is a slave. People like him, speakers who have the ability to cast magic from certain powerful books by reading the words out loud, have been enslaved due to a history in the world where people like him nearly destroyed the world. So, others took it in their hands to either hunt them down, enslave them, and never taught them to read to ensure that their power could be limited and controlled. The dynamic between the slaves and masters and what could happen to Baz is things are not all roses and dandelions for slaves in this world. There is a very dark reality for them, and I would highly recommend this for people who are looking for a fantasy that is a bit more fast-paced, but also has deeper themes and topics. Question 7. What is my favorite indie fantasy cover? That is a very easy answer, and that would be Thiago Abdallah's books. These covers are stunning, absolutely stunning, and the hardcovers feature the artwork on the naked hardback as well. Perfect. Question number 8. Do I approach indie reading and reviewing differently? No. However, yes, and I'm gonna explain. So overall, I try to put the same amount of effort into reviewing and reading no matter how a book is published. That being said, since I've started reviewing a few years ago and doing Booktube and all of that, sometimes I miss just reading a book for me without any expectations of having to do a review or give an in-depth perspective of my experience or explain it to someone. Sometimes I just want to read a book and be able to put it down and just enjoy the feeling that I have after the fact. One series I've mostly done this with is Malazan. Malazan is a very daunting and heavy series to read, and there are so many people already reading and reviewing this, and yes, reviews matter, but at the same time, because of the kind of experiences I've had reading Malazan that I've seen others go through where they pick it up, they're excited, they drop it, or they feel overwhelmed by it, or it's just too much, or it feels like homework. I want to avoid that. I want to just be able to pick up a Malazan book, read it, and walk away just enjoying it without having to go into in-depth analysis and reviews. And I did try that for one of the books, and I didn't like it. There are just times where you need to balance reading and reviewing, and that was Malazan for me. Malazan is an incredibly popular series that doesn't work for everyone, and I didn't want to put so much pressure on myself to review these books in a very detailed manner the way I do other books that I wasn't enjoying the process of reading. So for me, yes, sometimes I need to make the choice of I'm reading this for me, and while I might talk about it, I'm not going to worry about going in depth with it. And I just think that's an important balance to keep. Question number 9, what is an upcoming indie fantasy release that I'm looking forward to? That would actually be one I have an arc for. This is The Hunter's Lament by Steve Pennett, and it's releasing, I believe, on November 6th this year. It's been sold to me as a slow burn, character driven, low magic fantasy, and that just sounds like everything that interests me, on top of the story, which is the main character and his crew are going on a hunt for a fugitive prince. Although they meet so many different obstacles along the way, including rivals and gangs, and it just ends up being a question of are they hunting or being hunted? So this sounds absolutely right up my alley, and I'm really excited to get to this one. Question 10, what indie author would I choose to write my story? This is really easy, and I would pick Andrew D. Meredith. Andrew is incredibly thoughtful, but also passionate about writing and storytelling, about how he crafts a story, and is just, at the end of the day, he would probably capture the integrity to my personality, the type of person that I am, but also make my story far more interesting and compelling. And I just feel like he would do my story justice. Question 11, what is an indie fantasy more people need to read? Again, I want to break the rules because I can't just pick one. All right, I'm going to pick two. The Wickwire Watch by Jacqueline Hagan and Heliotrope by Palmer Pickering, which recently won a semifinalist in SPIFBO. So congratulations, Palmer. But these two are fantastic reads. Again, they're very different in style. This is a gaslamp fantasy and has a lot of mystery, suspense, and characters you just can't help but feel for. There have also been so many moments where I just don't want to put this down. It's been a very engaging and emotionally evoking read. On the other hand, we have Heliotrope, which is a sword and sorcery fantasy that is a slow burn. We follow a retired soldier, and the story that unfolds is just handled in such a beautiful, beautiful way. We go on journeys, we see a found family grow and develop. We just get so many moments that are wholesome and yet have that burn pacing of battles in there as well, along with animals that, while they don't talk, they're just typical animals, they have so much personality to them that I think that is just incredible to capture. If your animals in a book can have so much personality, can you only imagine what the characters are like? So these two I would highly recommend. Currently, they are vying for my top book of the year so far. But absolutely, these are incredible indie fantasy reads I would recommend. The last part of this is to tag a few friends, so I'm going to go ahead and tag Tori from Tori Talks, Anitha from Anitha Gade, and I'm also going to tag T from An Erudite Adventure. I hope you guys have fun doing this as well. If you are also watching this, I didn't tag you, but you are interested in doing this, consider yourself tagged. This was such a fun tag, so thank you so much, Dom, for tagging me. And I'd love to know if there was an indie fantasy book that you could recommend that is lesser known, which would it be? Leave your comments down below. I'd love to hear from you. As always, thank you so much for watching and take care of yourselves.